Hello swimmers and non-swimmers. Just been out for a dog walk at the beach near the battery. I've got Billy in the back who's not very pleased because the rain stopped play. We're just sat in the car waiting for the rain to stop. But I just thought I'd share some interesting stuff I found out yesterday. I went to the local library, Morecambe Library. If by the way anyone is ever doing any research on anything, we've got a really nice reference library upstairs that I was totally unaware of, where you can look through records, reference books, and I found some really interesting stuff in just related to the history of swimming in Morecambe. It said that there used to be a swimming pool actually in the Winter Gardens, and I think next to an aquarium inside, which I was totally unaware of. I don't know how long this pool was in operation for, but it eventually was dismantled or filled in or whatever they do. And somebody told me yesterday that you can still see some of the, I don't know what you'd call it, like the foundations or remnants of the pool underneath the Winter Gardens. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I'd have to go and look myself. But so yeah, there was a pool there. I also read in a reference book that I think the local, was it the Victoria Swim Club, I think they were from Burr, they were asking the council for a pool. I think the nearest one was Lancaster after the Morecambe one was taken down. And it said they were trying to construct one under something called Lyric Hall. Now when I looked up Lyric Hall, it looks like it's a building on the back streets of Morecambe, Polton Way, and I think it's what's now called Smoky O'Connor's, a big grand building. So there was plans to build a pool there, but it also went on to say, I think it was 1937, after all the demand for local heated and nice pools, and Mrs. Bourne, I think it was, had one constructed next to what used to be the Broadway Hotel, and it said for some reason it wasn't all that popular, and eventually that got filled in, or they built a bar over it. So, but it seems like this Victoria Swim Club were quite tenacious in the badgering of the council, and they kept asking and asking for a pool for themselves, you know, for people of Morecambe. And in the end they had a meeting at the council, town hall I'm guessing, where apparently there were 9 votes for a pool and 9 against, but it went ahead. And I'm assuming it's what we now know as the crabbing pool. I don't think there's been any other pools that way. That's what it seems to be, what we'd now know as the crabbing pool, across from the high-rise apartments on the seafront there. So it says that a local contractor, I think they were called D. Hinchcliffe and Sons, which operated from Sandylands, took on the job of building the pool. I think it cost £900 to build, and then it was given to the Victoria Swimming Club, who put on little competitions and swims, and I think they hired it to private individuals. But it also says it was the Victoria Swimming Club. Now this is where I was mistaken in another video. I thought it was a group of swimmers from Grange who were the first people to try swimming across the bay. All it says in the history I found online, a group of swimmers attempted a swim, didn't quite make it, and then asked a Professor Stern from Manchester. But it actually said in the reference book I saw yesterday that it was a group of swimmers from the Victoria Swimming Club who approached Mr. Stern and asked him to do the cross bay swim, which I've talked about in another video. But that's where it comes from. But one thing that I found really interesting, it said back then there was obviously they were a lot more uptight about changing and gender and mixing and what was deemed right and proper. And it said a bathing, like a changing hut was put near the slipway that leads down to the pool, which is still there as far as I can see, leading down to the crab pool. But it said there was uproar about that because the way this cubicle was, van sort of thing on wheels, was created with changing cubicles inside, they were having to put more than one person in each cubicle to get people changed. Men were going past women's cubicles or I don't know, it just wasn't perfect by the sounds of it. It also mentions, which I found really interesting, the person put in charge of all these changing cubicles on that site was a Mr. H. Taylor, and it says that it must be Henry Taylor. It says he was the person to set the fastest time for swimming Morecambe Bay, which is 2 hours 2 minutes. So what Henry Taylor was doing up here and managing changing cubicles and all that side of the pool, I don't know, because I thought he was from Chadderton, which he was, and he swam round there. But it seems like from this story in the reference book that he either lived round here or spent enough time up here to be managing the changing side of the swimming near the old pool. So that's an interesting bit of history. But another thing it said is when he did set that record of 2 hours 2 minutes, it said in the reference book that time will never be broken due to the course being changed due to the shifting sands of the bay. So at some point when he was doing it in the early days, it sounds like there was a certain route across, you know, which made it quite a smooth, maybe not easy, but a lot less easier a crossing maybe. And as the years went by, the shifting sands meant that that course could not be swum anymore. And we hear that today, that the course that a lot of these people swam in the past just isn't there for us to swim anymore. It's changed so much, whereas a lot of the water used to go out and into the bay towards Morecambe and then bypass it. It seems like the sands have changed that much that a lot of the water further out just bypasses the bay altogether, and that's where the danger is of being swept out. So very interesting to read all this, but it does sound like a really thriving scene. It also mentions women from, I think it was Polton or Burr, being seen, daring to be seen, wearing like robes or changing robes, walking down to the pool on the promenade, which was sort of quite an out there thing to do at the time. It was causing a bit of uproar that women were daring to walk down to the outdoor pool with changing robes on. You know, nowadays it's just a normal thing, isn't it? But back then, and it also said that a woman caused uproar by going onto the beach with a couple of men knocking a water polo ball around. I don't know if they're on the beach or in the water, but somebody took pictures and that ended up being part of a display that was shown somewhere. But you know, at the time it seems like they were still very wooden and concerned with being prim and proper, and that the men swam here, the ladies swam here, they got changed separately. You know, obviously a very different time, but it is very interesting to see that there is a lot of history out there relating to swimming in Morecambe Bay. And the Victoria Swimming Club, you know, good for them for pestering the council and getting that pool made. It probably was deeper than it is now, because where that pool is now, the crabbing pool, it's only a few feet deep, you know, so it's almost just about probably deep enough to swim in. Not that I would want to, but it even says that back then it was full of glass and rubbish and stuff. Not the nicest pool. But it says that after a while, I think Victoria Swimming Club sort of lost interest in that pool and it was taken over by what they call the corporation, and I guess it slowly stopped being a place for people to do swim events, and people probably started swimming more in the bay. But that's the history I found out. And one more thing I found out is where the name Morecambe comes from. It comes from apparently a Celtic word, MWR, it's spelled CWM, Morecambe, meaning Great Bay, and I really didn't know that. So it's quite fascinating what you find out when you go to Morecambe Library in the reference section.